everything and settled in for a 9 to 5. But the Ordovician extinction was
leaning on orca attacks on other species, like dolphins, help them escape.
Please, what's your please?
Thank you for your time. Considering how complex orcas are, I'm sure you can imagine that researching them meant we had about 1 million tabs open, decades worth of papers, articles, everything. It could have been chaos, but I used Opera to totally change how I work, and they're the sponsor of today's video. If you haven't heard of it, Opera is a free web browser with a ton of features that actually make it worth switching to. No matter how you use the internet, they're without a doubt a game changer. Opera has tab islands, which lets you group your tabs by theme or project. So I can research tabs in one island, non-orca work stuff in another, and collapse everything I'm not using. I can even name them and choose different colors for different groups. And with tab traces, a faint little underscore shows me exactly which tabs I've visited most recently, so you don't get lost in the abyss of 40 open tabs. The darker the underscore, the more recent the visit. When I need to compare sources side by side, split screen lets me do up to 4 tabs at once in a grid layout. Just drag a tab down, and you've got instant multi-window setup without juggling separate windows. And my Gmail, Google Calendar, and Google Translate all live right in the Opera sidebar. One click and they're there. No extra tabs needed or grabbing my phone. It's the most helpful and customizable browser I've ever used. So if you haven't tried it out, you totally should, and you have nothing to lose. I have a link in my description that you can click on to try Opera so you can get your stuff organized pronto. Thank you, Opera, for sponsoring this video and keeping me sane while going down rabbit holes. Now, back to the killer whales. Starting off with the oldest known member of the orca lineage. Let's see. Orcinus sidoniensis. Orcinus? It probably is Orcinus, and I'm just saying Orcinus. Orcinus sounds like a sinus infection. Orcinus sounds like a evil magic spell.
Turbo! Yo, that's not a spell, you just drinking fireball!
Different sources are saying different pronunciations, so I'm just gonna stick with Orcinus because I think it sounds better than Orcinus infection. Anyway, known from fossils found in Italy and England and described in 1883. They're alive about 4 million years ago, and they were relatively small, like 11 to 13 feet. So not small, obviously, but compared to orcas today, they were fucking pipsqueaks. But still, I actually don't know the dimensions of this room. Probably still the length of my room, and that's a decently sized whale. They had a similar basic anatomy to modern orcas, but more teeth and also smaller teeth. Based on everything we can tell, it was probably eating small to medium-sized fish. That's it. Just chilling, eating fish. No hunting of brethren yet. Next, Plataleorostrum hoekmani. I think I actually fucking killed that, so let's go with that. Plataleorostrum hoekmani, or Hoekman's blunt-snouted dolphin, alive during the Pleistocene, so let's call it 3 million years ago. Articles online call it a balloon head or a spoon head. You know what it looks like to me? Looks like a strange penis, or a beluga whale, but like beluga-y in a 360 fashion. Not a beluga, for now they're in the orca subfamily. And the nature of their snout is due to the nature of their premaxilla, all stretched out and shit. That's all I have to say about them for now. They're cool, just look a little unusual, but that's okay. Then there was Orcinus paleorca, known from the Pleistocene of Japan. The only fossil we have is a tooth fragment, classic fossil record shit. But that tooth fragment is enough to tell us that something was shifting. It's similar in size to modern orca teeth, and noticeably larger than the teeth of the first one, the other guy. So, does this mean their prey was getting bigger? Perhaps so. But the find that really changed the picture is much more recent. In 2021, on the island of Rhodes in Greece, scientists found the fossil of some sort of toothed whale dated to 1.4 million years ago. After close examination, it seems to be somewhere near the common ancestor of both orcas and false killer whales, their closest living relatives. It was about 16 feet long, so similar in size to modern false killer whales. But its teeth were smaller and smoother, without the deep grooves that modern orcas and false killer whales used to crunch through mammal bones. And luckily, the fossil was really well preserved, enough to show the remains of its last meal, a blue whiting, a foot-long fish, i.e. not a marine mammal. You know what that means? The near cannibalism evolved much more recently than you probably expect. Orcas hunting marine mammals is a pretty new mod to our planet. This news went against a pretty long-standing hypothesis that baleen whales got big partly to avoid orca predation. Baleen whales were already fucking humongo by like 3 million years ago. And orcas didn't start hunting them until like 1.3 million years ago. So they didn't get big because of the orcas just eventually grew a massive pair of balls and decided to put them on the menu as a popular dish.
Hi, I'm Fred, and I'm the Orca Man, and I'm here in British Columbia, the birthplace of killer whale research. In fact, it happened literally in those waters. They were right there. In the early days of research, scientists were focused not on what orcas existed here, but just simply how many there were. And so they chartered one of the greatest marine group projects ever seen. We're up and down the coast of British Columbia on August 1st for a few years. They would have people out looking for killer whales and reporting how many they saw in a given area. Now, through that census and other research, we've come to know orcas not only as a population, but individuals. Around here, we have three kinds of killer whales, or ecotypes, if you would. We have transients, or mixed killer whales, residents, and offshores. And I'm thrilled because Lindsay asked me to tell some stories of killer whales with you for this video. But as much as I do love this place, I think we need to change the scenery. I don't know how to get there. I'll try this way.
I forgot my water. Hold on, I'll be right back.
I think this is a little bit better. You might even be able to put photos here. So,
What the fuck?
what's up, dude? How's it going?
How'd you get in here?
I mean, time, space, weird things, the back window.
All right.
Yeah? You were talking
Weird.
about...
I
Killer
was
whales?
talking about orcas.
I heard it from British Columbia. I thought you could use some help.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, actually, yeah, sure.
If you want.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I have the generic shit, but you have the specific shit.
I can get some stories for
You're
you.
the orca guy.
And put some brushes on.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. I'll just go over here
Okay.
and you can do that.
I'm gonna tell stories for like an
6:30
hour,
here.
and then you can use whatever you want for that.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
I'll tell you as many stories as I can as fast as I can. So, here it goes. So killer whales kill whales. In fact, that's how they got the name, killer whales. But one of the most interesting stories about orcas killing whales actually has to do with humans. You see, down in Twofold Bay in Eden, Australia, there's one of the most fascinating symbiotic relationships that's ever occurred. And that is killer whales and humans hunting together. And I find it fascinating too because the story of how the symbiotic relationship started was actually on the part of the whales themselves. You see, these killer whales that are down there, they hunt whales in packs and pods, if you would. And when they do, they corral the whale all together, and it's a really group project to try and take down a singular whale. So there was one whale down in this group that decided that they should add humans to the mix because they saw that they were doing something similar. And the way that they would do this, so in Twofold Bay, Old Tom, the whale, the ringleader of the pod, which is interesting because in most orca societies they're matrilineal, whereas he was the one at least who was directing the attention of the humans. Maybe the females were out doing something more important. Now, Old Tom would come in and alert the local whalers that the killer whales were bringing in a whale into Twofold Bay. And so they would corral a humpback whale, bring it into the bay, and basically hold it until the whalers would then get in their boats, get in the canoes, make their way out, and start to finish the kill. So the orcas would start it, they'd find the whale, they'd bring it right into where the humans were really good, and then they let the humans finish the job. But they wouldn't do this for free, because who would do anything for free? I'm not doing it, I'm getting paid a lot. As payment for orcas bringing in this massive kill, what the whalers would do is then tie down the whale, sink it so that it was in a singular place that they'd be able to go to the next day, and leave it overnight for the orcas. And the orcas would then go, only eat the tongue and the jaw of the whale, and then the whalers would come back the next day to fully harvest it, all the blubber and things like that, and the whales would go on their merry way until they came back with another one. And the reason that they do this, orcas are specific hunters. So for whales, they'll eat specifically tongue in the jaw or various parts. For sharks, they'll eat mainly their livers, and this is because they want to use the most nutritious part of the body for as many of them as humanly possible. It is much more advantageous for them to do that than otherwise. The orcas only need the tongue and the jaw, and the humans need everything else. That's pretty good. And so this came to be known as the law of the tongue, and Old Tom would do this for many, many years. And then when he ultimately died, his skeleton was actually recovered, and you can go see it at the Eden Killer Whale Museum in Eden, Australia. It's ridiculous.
That's insane.
It's like to have them started, I find it fascinating. I think that's that story for now.
Okay.
And then we can go from there. So now it's you?
Yeah, now it's me, but you can't be in here because
No.
I can't film in front of people.
Fine.
So.
If you say so.
Yeah, we'll just switch off.
Okay.
So, orcas today. They're the largest dolphins that we know of. At max, like 33 feet long and 22,000 pounds. Males have huge dorsal fins that can get to like 6 feet tall, which is insane. I went out with Delaney, if you remember my video where I went looking for the blue whales. I've been out with Delaney since then on boats, and we once went to see some orcas, and the male, his dorsal fin must have been like the max. It was fucking huge, and it is insane to see it compared to the female dorsal fins. It is behemoth. is what it is. Anyway, when you're out there and they're like right there, you can really feel their power, and it's a little bit terrifying. And not just like a, oh, nature is powerful, you know, but like a, oh, you have power, and it feels like you also have discernment, and that's a lot to process, you know? Part of that definitely comes from a buildup of knowing how they hunt, just as a society, that buildup, you know? It's what they're known for. It's what created their infamous reputation. So I figured now is a good time to go through some of their most heinous hunting tactics. First off, in Patagonia, the orcas over there intentionally beach themselves to catch seals on the shore. In Antarctica, they coordinate wave washing, where multiple orcas swim in formation to make a wave that slaps seals right off the ice. Orcas herd fish together, and in captivity they've used fish as bait to catch seabirds. That's kind of like the opposite of fishing for us, you know? Because that's an ocean animal fishing for a terrestrial slash, I mean, birds are like even beyond terrestrial. That's like orcas are fishing in the opposite way. Anyway.
Okay, for these stories, I'm gonna ask Lindsay to come in because I want live reactions because they're they're too funny, and I think that you deserve to hear them live. So fun. Okay.
All right.
So, in British Columbia and Washington State, the Salish Sea, there was one killer whale when he was a juvenile. When killer whales are young, when male killer whales are very young, when they start to go into puberty, they get excited and have the same kind of things as the rest of the human species. And so, when this one killer whale was very young, he would make his way up to jet engine, like the boats, and
No!
yeah, and his name has been bestowed as Jack. And the majority of people who see him have no idea. So one, that's hysterical. Or not that. But like, yes. And they would have people on the boats being like, oh, so like, what's he doing? And the naturalists just had to like let themselves be because like, how do you explain it?
That's like the episode of My Strange Addiction where the guy fucks his car.
Yeah, kinda. But jet engine. Like, next time you're in a hot tub, don't, by any means, please. Too funny. Okay.
I mentioned a moose situation. The whale sharks. The list of things they will not eat is basically just us. And even that feels like a choice they're making rather than a limitation. And then there's this shit that's not even hunting anymore. Like, flinging seals into the air. Like, fucking rockets. There's also something they do called surplus killing, where they kill more than they can eat. So they'll just kill harbor seal pups, porpoises, and that's it. Not eat them. Why? No fucking clue. The leading hypotheses are that it's some combination of play, hunting practice, maybe misdirected caregiving. Point is, nobody fully knows why they do it. They just do. There's also the iconic port and starboard situation, which you've probably heard of. But if not, there's two orcas off the coast of South Africa that are very well known for hunting great white sharks and eating specifically their livers. Just the liver. Must be the most delicious. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. And the how is much more sinister. They locate the shark, flip it into tonic immobility, extract the liver with what researchers describe as almost surgical precision, and then leave. They've done this enough times that great white sharks in the area have started leaving, or they're just avoiding the area entirely, which has thrown the ecosystem so far out of balance that species the sharks used to keep in check, like seals, have increased, which is now threatening African penguins. And everything's just out of whack because of two orcas and their desire for shark liver, at least partly.
So these two are older stories.
Okay.
Okay, so Portland. What is Portland's motto?
Which Portland?
Portland, Oregon. That's a great question.
Keep Portland weird.
Keep Portland weird. Now, what if I told you there's a river in Portland? It's an hour drive from Portland to the coast.
Yeah.
And so it was super weird when, in the early 1900s, a killer whale swam up the river and, like, made its way to Portland. And everybody in Portland was like, man, what the fuck?
What?
They had no idea. And so the government had to try and get hunters to stop, like, not kill the whale. Then there was this one guy. I'm a hunter, this is what I do, this killer whale needs to end, he's a nuisance. And so he kills the whale. Kills the whale. The whale ends up being named Ethelbert.
Ethelbert?
Ethelbert.
Ethelbert.
Ethelbert. Very Portland name. It gets worse. So you know how, like, it's a little bit sad stories, but also like a man taxidermied a whale, and that's kind of weird.
Ethelbert.
Named Ethelbert, and then like traveled around with Ethelbert as like a showpiece, and so that was like one of the first instances of like an orca tour. Terrifying, gross, strange, weird.
Very strange.
Very strange. Okay, so in Ireland, there's the River Derry.
Derry.
The River Derry. It's wonderful. Also, very inland. Not a place that an orca should be. Evidently, orca went up there. Orca goes up there, and all the town, like, collectively, and I love that this is the difference between the United States and Ireland. Ireland saw the whale and went, what the fuck are you doing? That's Scottish. That was so bad. I apologize.
Oh, God, you wouldn't belong getting frostbite.
But they called him Dopey Dick. And they such an idiot, making his way to the river, and he made his way back out, which is very sweet.
Oh, because he got bullied.
Because he got bullied.
He
Because
was bullied.
we're too mean. He, as much as he's a part of the culture in the area, I guess he didn't acclimate very well.
Yeah.
He wanted to stay in the water with his own kind, which is very sweet. Yeah.
Dopey dick.
Dopey dick.
I guess another thing to put into context is what's going on neurologically. Orca brains can weigh up to 20.5 pounds. The average is around 14. For reference, the average human brain is about 3 pounds. Their encephalization quotient, which is the ratio of brain size to body size, is around 2.2 to 2.3. That's high for any non-human mammal. They can distinguish between salmon species using echolocation alone by reading the swim bladder signature of a fish through sound. That's a lot of thinking going on, maybe even overthinking. Orcas show strong evidence of mirror self-recognition. This is a test done on different animals to see if they can recognize themselves within their environment. Something that comes up a lot in like conversations about consciousness and non-human animals, and that's a whole other thing about how you define consciousness, because everybody has a different fucking definition, like self-recognition as the idea of consciousness and what that means. So this is a test that comes up a lot. Certain animals, it's a lot easier to do on. Cetaceans, it's a little more difficult because what you have to do is put a marking on them and then put them in front of a mirror, and then you have to figure out if their behavior indicates that they notice something is like out of place. But they figured out how to do it. Cetaceans. And one orca named Freya actually rubbed her mark off on the table wall, suggesting she was anticipating behavior that mirrors what's been documented in bottlenose dolphins. They also do contingency checking, like for dolphin behavior. And orcas actually stuck their tongue out and blew bubbles during the test more than dolphins did, which suggests they were, if anything, more interested in the whole shebang, more entertained by it. Okay, so now we're gonna try something. I'm gonna describe some behaviors to you, or we, obviously, because Fred's popping in and out. And I want you to just notice how they make you feel. First off, a little more generic shit. Orcas live in matrilineal pods, i.e. family groups led by older females, the matriarchs. Pods typically have somewhere between 2 and 15 individuals, but temporary groups can reach into the hundreds. Males live an average of 31 years, but up to 60 or 70. Females average 46, with a max around 80 to 90. And the behavior and hunting methods of a pod are passed down from one generation to the next. They're extremely tightly bonded with very visible signs of culture. In 2018, a female orca named Telequa, also known as J35, gave birth to a calf that died within 30 minutes. For the next 17 days, she carried the body over 1,000 miles. When it slipped off of her, she retrieved it, and her pod stayed with her the entire time. Members other than her would sometimes carry the calf themselves, possibly so she could eat, because she wasn't seen eating during this time. Researchers called it a tour of grief. In 2025, she did it again. She lost another baby. We don't exactly know what was happening internally for Telequa. The interpretations range from primitive instincts to an inability to recognize death, but interesting that all of those explanations are things that also happen in humans. How do you feel about that? Probably very empathetic in a similar human kind of way. Orcas are also one of the only animals on the planet to go through menopause. Pretty crazy. Females stop reproducing around 30 to 40 years old, but then keep living researchers can tell is grandchildren. Post-reproductive females dedicate their remaining years to supporting their offspring and grand offspring. Their presence has measurably reduced the mortality of adult sons after maternal loss. They essentially retire from having kids to become full-time grandmothers. And the fact that evolution selected for that living longer without reproducing was advantageous enough to stick, says something pretty significant about how much these animals depend on each other.
Penis fencing.
Penis fencing.
2 flatworms. I don't have the mic anymore.
Oh no?
2 flatworms.
Did you know some orcas are gay?
Of course they are. Every intelligent species has homosexual.
Absolutely, and male sociosexual behavior in particular is like super recorded, especially when they're juveniles. So young gay men in the orca community love it. They are having the most fun.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
I love that.
It's really, to be honest, kind of nice.
This is coming out 2 weeks before Pride Month.
How exciting. What a way to celebrate. Celebrate with the orcas. The orcas, symbols of pride and like anti-oppression.
Hell yeah.
Because they're sinking boats.
Yeah.
Eat the rich.
They're also fucking jet engines.
They're also fucking jet engines.
In 2021, off the coast of Iceland, a female orca named Sadie's was observed escorting a newborn long-finned pilot whale calf. Not an orca, a pilot whale calf. Totally different species. She kept it tucked just behind her dorsal fin, where the pressure wave from her movement essentially carries the calf along. The calf was newborn and emaciated. Sadie's almost definitely couldn't nurse it, but she stayed with it anyway. She had never been seen with her own calf since she was first observed in 2012. But by 2022, the pilot whale calf was gone, presumed dead. After this, the same orca pod was observed repeatedly approaching pilot whale groups. So researchers think they might have been looking for another calf to take in. Isn't That's so cute. There's also the salmon hat trend I'm sure you've heard about. In 1987 in Puget Sound, a female orca in K-Pod started wearing a dead salmon on her head. Within a pretty short amount of time, the behavior spread across J, K, and L pods. Yeah, the plastics. It faded out pretty quickly, as trends do, but then, in 2024, an orca named Blackberry was spotted with a salmon on his head. Maybe trying to get the trend going again is like a vintage thing, you know? It's not that when there's abundant food and orcas have more free time, they play, they get bored. They invent things to do, and those things spread. Unfortunately, the salmon get disrespected in the process. But they also pull kelp underwater and release it to watch it shoot back up. They spy hop, where they lift their heads above the surface to look around at the world above the water. One researcher named Robert Pittman accidentally hit an orca in the Ross Sea with a snowball, and the orca responded by breaking off pieces of ice and launching them back at him for 5 minutes. That's so